Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin. And tonight we're doing a movie that was selected off of our bottom 10 of our top 100 superhero movies of all time list. We put all of those on a wheel, or at least a lot of them that Austin and I picked. We took a few things off because of things that had come out too recently and stuff that doesn't actually count for this show. And we ended up landing on The Phantom, which came out in 1996. And Austin, I think I saw this in the theater, maybe?
Oh, okay, cool.
I can't remember. It's weird, some of the movies that my dad took me to that I really didn't care, all that much about. And the movies that he didn't, that I was just, desperate to see. I didn't get to see X-Men in the theater, but I think I saw this in the theater. I didn't get to see Spawn, but I saw this.
I mean, that's a trade up. You should be thankful for that.
Retroactively, yeah, but at the time, it was I couldn't wait to see Spawn, and then I didn't get to go in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even, it was too violent, he didn't want me to see it. It was just, he didn't feel like going. We went to the theater, and there were two movies playing next to each other. One was that, and one was Air Force One, and we went to Air Force One. I've probably told this story before. So The Phantom is kind of interesting that it's happening this early, relatively, Austin, on our show, because we've already knocked out a couple of proto superhero movies or movies based on pulps from this period.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did not too long ago Mask of Zorro, which I feel like in some ways this plays almost like a prototype of.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also has Catherine Zeta-Jones.
And it's got Catherine Zeta-Jones, yeah. And then before she's well known at all, and then by Zorro even she's not that huge yet, but she's getting bigger. I do believe. And then we also did The Shadow not too long ago. And this is in that assortment of movies that happen. They get greenlit pretty clearly because of Batman '89 and take a lot of their cues from that. So Dick Tracy is that way. The Shadow is that way. The Rocketeer is that way. The Phantom is that way.
Yeah, I think the Rocketeer and Dick Tracy are the two that were missing for this infinity gauntlet of 90s pulp movies.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think there are any others besides those.
They're at least the ones that immediately come to mind. There might be other ones.
Yeah. This is a movie that people seem kind of back and forth on if they talk about it at all. It's not a movie that comes up all that often, and The Shadow is like that too. But I think it's even better regarded and kind of reappraised by some folks anyway, in a way that The Phantom isn't. This is just a movie that doesn't really come up, but when it does, I feel like there are two camps with this. I feel like there's the camp of people that think it is too campy and that make fun of the costume and just think it's silly and kind of point and laugh at it. And then people that think that it's a little misunderstood and that it's a fun throwback pulp thing and especially a kind of a movie serial throwback. And it's sort of if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, it's just not for you. This is one of those movies that was advertised real hard as a big mainstream blockbuster and wanted to be accessible, at least in the advertising. And then when you see it, it's like, this isn't for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, I feel like there's a tier of these where it's Zorro and the Rocketeer are probably in the top one in terms of overall acceptance by the audience, or at least how they're remembered. And then the Shadow's probably in one just under that, and then under that is maybe Dick Tracy, and then the Phantom.
Well, I would actually argue that Dick Tracy is in that second camp that you mentioned, because it actually did decently well at the box office, and is pretty well remembered, but again doesn't come up all that much. But the Phantom was just maligned at the time, and then the Rocketeer is in a weird island all by itself where nobody saw it when it came out, and then it's a big cult classic now that gets reappraised, that has been full on reappraised, and everybody seems to like when they see it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm just talking about now, not how they were received back then. But Very true.
Sure, but I don't think Dick Tracy's really malign. But I think it's also
I don't know that it's maligned. I just never hear anyone talk about it. That's
yeah,
why I
it's
was
more in
like, it
that
probably
camp.
goes a little under the shadow, or
But
maybe it's like in line with the shadow.
but again, if the Phantom gets brought up, it's typically people laughing at it, like that remember at the time. Oh, remember that goofy movie with like who would ever put Billy Zane in a superhero costume, and then the uh, catchphrase in the box was "Slam Evil." Everybody remembers that about it if they were there, because it's ridiculous and it's generic, and you could put it on any superhero box, and it makes it look like a direct-to-video feature.
Hmm. Might as well have just been like, take a bite out of crime.
Yeah, Slam Evil. What was with the marketing department? This isn't another New Line movie, is it?
It might be a catch-up movie. I don't
No,
know.
no, it's Paramount.
It is Paramount, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Hmm.
On the back of the box, there's this really cool atmospheric shot of the Phantom in almost silhouette, but you can still see the purple of his costume sitting on his big, tall throne. And I'm going, the hell was that in the movie?
I mean, the throne's there. We just don't get that
It's
shot.
cool, but we don't get that shot.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, we'll go ahead and get into it and start talking about it. Austin, I'll say this real quick. I've always put myself in that other camp that I mentioned of people that feel like this movie is misunderstood, and that it's maybe not a thing that's for everybody. And I had a really good watch with it years ago when I did the rewind on it, where I was like, oh, I get this movie now. It's really clicked in for me.
Hmm.
And when I was writing about it, it was kind of less, is this movie for me? Like, how much am I appreciating it? And more like, what is it trying to do and is it accomplishing that? And I decided it was, and I think I was pushing back so hard against the this is campy and silly and should have been never been made, like reaction to it, that I wasn't really thinking all that much about like whether it spoke to me at all. And in going back and watching it again, I did not have the watch I did with it back then. It
Would
doesn't
this
hold
have
up quite as well as it did when I did the rewind on it back in 10 or 11 or whenever I did that.
Would this maybe not make your top 100? Is what you're thinking, or?
Might be a little bit lower,
Mm.
but I almost still want to like sort of champion it a little bit. There's
Hmm.
part of me that still wants to put it on that list just because I'm like, no, you kind of did what it set out to do. Like it's all right. I don't think it's worth all the like a vitriol in the making fun of it.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
That's not what's wrong with it. But we'll talk about what's wrong with it. It's still fun. I like it okay.
Yeah, well, it was my first time watching it today,
I was gonna say
and
you'd never seen it.
yeah, and I would say I don't really fit into either category. Um, I just thought it was kind of boring, to be honest.
You're just kind of indifferent to it.
Yeah, like it was just kind of like, oh, this is a lesser version of better adventure movies, kind of all cobbled together.
Yeah, that was more of the experience I had with it this time around as well.
Hmm. Like, there's some cool stunts and stuff in it. It's just overall kind of dull, I would say.
It probably doesn't help watching it after Zorro.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too during the climax. I was like, would I maybe appreciate this more if it wasn't for that? But at the same time, like, that's just one example. Like, there's still other things. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. But like if you saw it, as it's coming out in the pantheon of superhero movies, is it a little bit more of a time and place movie, and you sort of had to be there? I don't know because it kind of feels like it missed the right time. It didn't feel like there was an audience for this when it was released.
Hmm. It makes me wonder what I would have thought when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, and I was kind of indifferent to it when I was a kid.
But I was into this stuff as a kid, so I'm like,
Well, that's true. I just wasn't.
would it jump out to me
Yeah.
a little bit more?
Well, but it's also possible that you would have been like, well, yeah, it reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I'd rather just be watching that.
But also, like, kids are stupid, so like I could have been like, oh yeah, like adventure, this is great.
Yeah, it's true. You might not have been critical of it at all.
Hmm. Exactly.
Well, after that rousing endorsement. Let's go ahead and watch it, shall we?
Let's play the movie.
Here we go. Get out your DVD if you happen to own it, and otherwise, you're kind of out of luck. You have to rent it on Amazon if you want to watch it streaming. There's nowhere else to watch this movie. Get it at timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now. I'm sure most people that watch our video or podcast on this will not actually watch the movie along with us, so we will try not to have too much dead air. Usually an hour 40 minutes I'm going, wow, how am I going to get it all in? And this one I'm going, I've got a whole hour and 40 minutes.
I feel like I'm on the climb on a roller coaster where it's like, oh man, this whole hour and 40 to go.
It's just not going to take me that long. But we'll have fun with it anyway. Here we go. Everybody please press play right now. See, I don't mean to be too dismissive out the gate. I just thought it was important to kind of check back in with myself from, over a decade ago. There's definitely stuff I admire about this movie, and Austin, one of those things is that it goes just full tilt with and I mean it's a Hollywood blockbuster, so the production values are bigger than this, but it goes pretty full tilt with the serial thing, and it's not trying to over design the costume, which I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm. No, I like the costume. I think it looks pretty good. It's kind of like exactly what you want if you're a fan of this material. Like, it's got a little bit of added detail, but it's mostly just the Phantom.
Well, that's why I say that it's not for everybody, because a lot of people looked at that costume and they went, it's just straight up spandex. Like, why didn't they do the 89 thing? And I'm like, because that's wrong for this material.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and it also just looks better than the fake muscle.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know why everything had to be over designed like that. In that rewind, I took a lot of my direction with that. First of all, I do really dig the opening title and the voiceover guy, just say the Phantom like that, because again, really cool serial throwback. But I took a lot of my direction for that review from that that opening text that just says for people who came in late, because that immediately sets the tone and tells you what this is trying to be and what it's throwing back to. And I think I stand by what I said in that review, where it basically wants to be a whole set of episodes, start to finish, of a serial, but you get it in the format of a modern, hour and a half blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to take it on the level of full-on melodrama.
Yeah, it's strange, I guess, that there are people that have that, because you open with that and then immediately open into Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, if you're not thinking old film serial by now, I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, well, here's the distinction for me, Austin. I think people probably understood what it was homaging, but not that it was, in my opinion, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, and I maybe am not as on about this as I was at the time, because there's more kind of contemporary hallmarks, and this feels more 90s to me this time than it did when I saw it before. But I still, at least to a lesser degree, I'm maybe on like a 7, and I was on a 10 before, Austin. That this, more than Raiders of the Lost Ark, wants to tell its story like a serial, because something like Raiders of the Lost Ark elevates it, where that's a more action-driven movie than a character-driven movie, but it's more character-driven than a serial was. This arguably isn't. This is pretty thin on story and characterization, but I think kind of gets away with it because of the kind of story it's decided to tell, or the format that it's telling it in. So again, it is that straight-up serial thing, whereas Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, those were modern movies that went back to that stuff but reinvented it. This isn't reinventing, it's just doing it again. Kind of.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
just with a 90s post 89 bend, post Indiana Jones, post 89 bend.
Yeah, and more in the way it's shot and the set designs than even in performances and in writing, I think.
Hmm. Well, and then two of our bad guys are ahead of their time because we have two of the, or one third of the Guardians of the Galaxy as the villains. We have Quill and Drax.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to bring that up. I was going to let you have it.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of amusing.
Isn't that weird? And they're on the same team, too.
I know, I was waiting for something else. I'm like, please be at least a third thing. Or like, we're going to steal some rockets.
Well, if it helps, Drax is at least kind of going after the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I guess kind of. The Infinity Skulls.
There's 3 Infinity Skulls.
Wait a minute. There's 3 Infinity Skulls, and they each have a gem in each eye.
Oh, that, yeah. Oh,
Therefore, there are 6.
now there's
Infinity
6.
Gems.
That's hilarious. Oh, okay, but then that falls apart when you realize that there's kind of a 4th one.
Well, that's just like a skull. It doesn't have gems in its eyes.
Isn't it weird? I'm getting ahead of myself, but isn't it weird when you get to the end and it's like, well, the 3 skulls are totally, like Sang says this, he's like, the 3 skulls are totally useless unless you have the 4th skull. And I'm like, I don't know, shouldn't you have this really powerful beam that you can just murder people you don't like with? Like, it is doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
That might be useful.
Well, it's just that the Phantom can pull out his Schwartz at the end. I found my skull in a Crack-a-Jack box.
Okay, Austin, are you ready for my first real complaint with this movie?
Go for it. Hit me.
I wish that the Phantom's introduction was treated with any sense of mystery whatsoever.
I had exactly that. Especially because you have them talking about like the ghost that haunts them, and oh, like I killed the Phantom, like but now he's back, like he's a ghost that walks, and that is a place where the costume is a little bit of a hindrance, but more so in how they shoot it, where like he's just a guy in purple spandex walking around in
Well,
the
entirely how they shoot it, because if you look at the back of this box with the same costume, he looks cool and mysterious, and he's in silhouette, and you could have shot it like that, and it's not all broad daylight, because they're in caves and stuff.
No, he should have been coming out of the shadows.
Now, I can make an excuse for it and say, but you're gonna be more from the main character's perspective in a serial where those weren't typically treated real mysterious either. But like, at least an introduction might be. Like, I get that we're with Kit Walker through most of the movie, and but the way we're introduced, but it's like that with Ninja Turtles too. I mean, the way we're, and I just kept thinking about that because we're introduced to him through these bad guys at the beginning, through these thugs. And then from then on, we're with him. Why can't we stay with the thug perspective until we're full on with? But no, we've got to do the Batman Forever thing and have a suit up. And that is 290s. That's not right for this.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, you want the like Raiders of the Lost Ark like coming out of the shadow look.
You're right. He needs a big entrance.
Yeah. No, I agree completely.
So Quill here is played by Dexter's dad,
who has the voice of Thomas Hayden Church.
That's true. And I've intentionally never learned that actor's name because every time I see him in things, I just like to refer to him as Dexter's dad.
And I will forever refer to him as Thomas Hayden Church's voice. And he's in a ton of stuff.
James Remar.
Yeah, he's like a big character actor. He does a lot of voice work too.
The score for this movie is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think honestly some of the like big action set pieces are kind of hindered by having a weak score.
I will say there is something kind of Lone Ranger about the introduction to him that maybe I don't hate now that we're looking at it again. But at the very least, give him a second cool introduction. Because when he shows up and fights them, it's just in full regalia right away. Like,
Well, it's because we jump straight into the truck scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the end of the second act, mixed with the bridge scene from Temple of Doom, which is the climax of that
okay.
movie.
I mean, you're right. Like, at the very least, they think it's a cool entrance because he's riding slow motion on a horse, but I just don't think it's right.
Yeah. No, that stuff took me really out because at a certain point I'm like, oh, you were just ripping off Raiders of the Lost Ark, like almost shot for shot.
And that's not what you want. You want it to be another cool movie that's in that same vein but does its own stuff.
Yeah,
With
I
maybe
mean,
some
even doing
homages.
and even doing like a truck chase, like you can still make your own out of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if a lot of its set pieces were reminiscent of the Indiana Jones movies, they don't have to do all the same stuff.
Hmm.
That's true. Now, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I think overall the production value in this movie is okay.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think it
agree
looks
with that.
horribly cheap. I don't think I think the effects hold up fine. It's mostly practical stuff anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weird effects later on, but for the most part, I think this movie looks good. I wish it was a little bit more like stylish in how it was shot. Kind of going into what we were talking about with this sequence, where I wish, he didn't just pop up and it's like, oh, now he's here.
Could we get a second take of that where they get freaked out at the Phantom dropping on their cab and they just go, ah? Can we get another take of that? That's a good punch, Billy Zane. Nicely done.
Oh, Robert Wild, I forgot he was Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh my god. I forgot about that too.
It was killing me too. I was like, he's like in a ton of stuff, but there's one big thing that I'm like, I know he's from, and it's killing me, and that's what it was. It
Well,
was
isn't the
Raiden
guy
in
who
that.
plays Sang at the end also in Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, he's Shang Tsung in
That's
the
what I
first.
thought so, but I can never remember that character's name, you see.
No, I'm on a roll for that apparently. 'Cause the last superhero movie I watched to prepare for the list was Dr. Mordred, and the main villain of that is the bad guy from Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
That movie's hilarious and wonderful, and I can't wait to do it on the show.
Yeah, same here.
So, Austin, you know the Indiana Jones movies better than I do, and maybe you just mentioned this and I missed it. But
Yeah.
is the way the bridge bit handled, is that directly out of one of those movies?
Uh, it's not exactly the same, but like it is clearly going for like a Temple of Doom, the end bridge fight.
Okay,
Like it's kind of like we mixed that with the truck scene from Raiders.
because I like the setup for that. Okay,
Yeah, no, I agree.
you know, like you have a little bit of the suspense of like, is the kid gonna be able to drive over it, and it showcases how kind of horrible these thugs are, and that they don't really have any regard for this kid's life.
I mean, it's not far off from like the girl on the train tracks.
And if this kid's actually been working with the Phantom this whole time, because I think that's the idea, that he's like sort of one of his helpers or sidekicks or whatever. Am I right about that?
When he's basically just short round.
But am I right about that? That like, does he start working with the Phantom after this, or was he already working for him, and that's how he went up in this situation? Because that
uh,
was the sense I got.
I thought he was just working for him afterwards, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Because if I hope that's what it is. Because if he's working for him before, the Phantom's kind of horrible for letting him get into the situation.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I could be wrong.
The slow motion swings and stuff are really overkill, and that's one of the big things that dates this movie.
One also when he swings, like it doesn't even look like there's anywhere for him to land. Like it looks like he's just gonna swing straight into the mountain, and then it just cuts to him just on the ground. Some of the geography and action scenes is a little strange.
That's fair. I do like Billy Zane in this role. That's another thing that people kind of argue about is like, what was he right for a thing like this? Um, Again, I think his performance is a little bit misunderstood. Like people, at the time especially, I complained that he was kind of wooden, didn't have any charisma. I don't really agree with that. He is trying to. He's actually a big fan of that character, and
Hmm.
he was going back to the the strips because this was in literally strips. The Phantom goes back to 36. Is technically the first costume superhero,
Hmm.
the first superhero to wear spandex, and the first superhero to have whited out eyes without pupils,
Oh, okay, that's cool.
which is interesting. So we always talk about the Batman coming Batman coming from shadow tradition. You actually get Superman and Batman in certain ways out of the Phantom,
Hmm.
which is interesting. But anyway,
Yeah,
so he was looking at the newspaper strips and trying to get the character to move like he seems to in those. And I think he kind of nails that from what little I've looked at.
yeah. So I found I didn't really care about any of the characters, but I do think Billy Zane's doing a really good job. Especially just the way he moves in the costume. Like it's very old Hollywood. He definitely gets the material.
I also thought there was a bit of a Val Kilmer quality to him. Like I could have seen him getting recast as Batman if Kilmer hadn't taken it.
Interesting. I didn't get Kilmer at all, but that's fair. I can kind of see him as Batman after this.
I had never had that thought before, but it
Hmm.
came to me watching it this time. They are making a really big deal out of how much he's been working out for this role.
When I think originally they did make a suit that was like the fake muscle pad thing, and then when he showed up to film, they were like, "Oh, we don't need it," is what I heard. But
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he actually developed that chiseled physique so that he could
mm,
wear that spandex and look decent in it. My favorite thing about the costume is that they did the full on, painted skeleton, which I think looks really cool.
yeah, I mean, instead of the fake abs, he just has them painted on.
Well, the abs aren't painted. I just mean the like. It's not like a human skeleton. It's like
Hmm.
a skeleton motif, and I
Yeah,
just think
well,
it's
he's got
really
like
cool
his whole
looking.
physique painted onto the suit, and then he like fills it. No, it looks good. That's what I meant earlier when I said that they just took that design, added a little bit of detail, and that was it. It was good to go. So, is this person a ghost or is he crazy?
No, he has to be a ghost, which is an angle I don't love. But
Hmm.
I'm also not sure how I feel about the supernatural stuff in this movie in general, and that feels like a real typical 90s. It's an adventure film. It's gotta have the equivalent of the light in the sky. It doesn't actually really do the light in the sky, but it's that kind of thing where you have to have an artifact that's got to be like actually supernatural, and we tack that onto a lot of things that don't really need it. And I think you can maybe do that with the Phantom, but it would have been cool if they went back to Lee Falk's original idea and they made it more realistic situations.
Hmm.
Because the idea of a character of like a legacy superhero, a generational superhero that makes everybody think that he's supernatural because you can't kill him, he just comes back, but that's because it's generational and his kid is the Phantom and then his kid is the Phantom. I don't know if that idea is as interesting when he's dealing with supernatural stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's kind of
Well,
more interesting if the whole world around him is stylized, but more or less the world of the 1930s.
mhm. Well, and then his dad is way older than the like tombstone that he had too. It's like that was kind of confusing, I thought.
Yeah, and he looks a lot older than that character would be in the comics.
Hmm. Well, I think because they give like an exact date, and I think it said
Yeah,
that he was 50 when he died,
he doesn't
or at
look
least in his
50.
50s.
He looks
No,
79. Maybe not 79. He looks 77.
Well, then I was also a little confused because I was like, did his dad get killed by the pirate guy, or did his dad get killed by Quill? Because the
Oh,
pirate
yeah,
guy.
because, well, Quill says he killed the Phantom before.
Mm-hmm.
But the pirate guy, it's like, how old is that guy? That's true. Saying, how old is he?
Yeah.
Because he said he's killed many Phantoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how that's possible. And you also would have long periods where there is no Phantom because you need time for the Phantom to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrific point that I didn't think of, Austin. And
Yeah, that
they
was just,
didn't think of it either.
there was just like world building stuff throughout the movie. I was kind of confused about stuff like that.
Well, and this point I'm about to make is kind of a disconnect with my point earlier about film serials because the supernatural MacGuffin plot is very typical of those, and I could see a Phantom serial in the 1930s, 1940s doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's where I wish it had gone a little bit closer to comics because I think it's more interesting for this material.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where I feel like it really wants to be Indiana Jones, but doesn't
Yes.
really understand why those work. Here's the bad guy who is Jim Carrey playing Walter Matthau.
Oh, okay.
No, I just thought he kind of looks like Walter Matthau, and there's points in the climax where he reminded me a bit of Jim Carrey. I don't know if you ever had that.
No, not even a little bit. But he is certainly over the top,
Mhm. I think
intentionally
it's just
so.
in the voice where I was like kind of hearing that.
Yeah, and I forget what, but like I've seen him in other stuff. That's a character actor that did quite a bit. His name is Treat Williams, and his performance is a lot of fun. He seems to know what he's in. Like he's just straight up like typical mustache twirling corporate CEO guy that wants to rule the world, and he is perfectly comfortable in that role. And was the standout for a lot of people at the time with this, because they felt like he had a lot more of a presence than the Phantom does. Again, I like the kind of more understated thing that Billy Zane is doing, and the contrast of that. What's fun about the villain to me is that kind of classic. I'm gonna pretend to be really polite and happy-go-lucky, but everything I'm doing is horrible. And it reminds me, you haven't seen this, Austin. You haven't watched this far, but it reminds me a lot of the mayor in who's the big bad guy in season 3 Buffy, who gives a really similar performance to this.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I thought the villain was okay. He didn't jump out to me a ton, but like he is, very silly and can be amusing in places.
Going back to this, what's kind of disappointing to me actually is that Sang comes into the story as late as he does, because
I
I think
agree.
a lot more interesting things could have been done with him, and there's an inherent parallel between his lineage and the Phantom's lineage. And in his way, he's like the other side of the coin and like an evil version of the Phantom. And you could have done something with that, but he's kind of just there, and that idea comes too late.
Yeah, I had that exactly when he shows up. I was like, oh, could we not have gotten to this a little earlier? Like I feel like we got like a proper supervillain for this movie right at the end.
Yeah. And that needed to happen like at the halfway point. And it would have been kind of a fun bait and switch if you thought that Drax was going to be the bad guy through the whole thing, and then and all of his men are part of the Sang Brotherhood, and then the actual Sang shows up and kills this guy and takes his skull.
Hmm.
That's what you do.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Because you have that idea that both the Phantom and Sang are these larger than life scary entities in the background, and nobody knows very much about them or how they operate. And at the very beginning, we peel the curtain back and we know what the Phantom is, but we don't know what Sang is for a long time. And it would have been cool actually to not even reveal exactly what he looks like and who he is until later, but just have him. So I don't know. These are two different ideas. Maybe he doesn't have to kill Drax. Maybe he's just more present and doing more stuff.
I feel like
But is real mysterious.
in another version of this movie, Drax is more like Scarecrow, and
Yeah.
Shang Tsung is the Ra's al Ghul, like in the Batman Begins kind of format.
No, that's a good call. I wonder if well, I was gonna say I wonder why they named this guy Dr. Fleming, but that could be a comic book character because a lot of these are in fact actually characters from major Phantom stories. But there are flashes through this where I feel like it's not only just visually wanting to be Indiana Jones, but also kind of wants to be Bond. And
When
so for
also,
a second I was like, maybe they named him that because of Bond, but I don't know.
no, it is possible, and like one of the best Fleming villains, Hugo Drax. So
Oh.
maybe they were like, oh, Moonraker.
And I would have to go back and look that up. I don't know if Drax was a Phantom character or not.
Yeah, one. I mean, even if he is, like, they still could have went like, oh, Moonraker. We like James Bond. That's one of our influences. Let's throw in a Fleming.
So I remember the scene bothering me a little bit as a kid, and I was surprised going back to it that they don't show anything.
I don't even think this guy would die.
I don't think it kills him. I think it just messes his eyes up.
Yeah,
Look, he's a liar.
but I feel like that's also more awkward. And that's what I thought too. Watching this is liar.
And then that music cue was real typical.
Hmm.
I kind of wish the score was as throwback as this idea in the script is.
The what? Sorry.
I kind of wish the score was a little bit more throwbacky.
I agree. I feel like the score is just very nothing.
Yeah, it has too generic of a fanfare of a main theme for the Phantom, and there's a little bit of an old Hollywood kind of bent to it that's okay, but I wish it was a little bit bigger.
No, it needs some bombast.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So you know who
The big
almost
thing
made
it's
this
missing.
movie?
Who's that?
Joe Dante.
Oh, Joe Dante would have been
Joe
awesome.
Dante was supposed to make this movie,
That's a
and
shame.
I'm gonna read an interesting quote from him. He says he developed the script with Jeff Boehm, who I think is credited for story on this, who's the guy who wrote Inner Space, and he says they were developing it as a spoof.
Mhm.
And he says we were a few weeks away from shooting in Australia, so like he almost made it. And he says when the plug was pulled over the budget, and they were supposed to have a winged demon at the climax, and they had to lose that because it was too expensive.
Mhm.
And then he says a year or so later it was put back into production, Sans Demon, and he says only nobody seemed to notice it was written to be funny. Now, I don't know why he lost the job. He doesn't talk about that in this quote. But he
Mhm.
says only nobody seemed to notice it was written to be funny, so it was disastrously played straight.
Wow.
And he says, I foolishly refused money to take my name off the picture, so I'm credited as one of a zillion producers.
That's really funny. Oh man, that just makes me sad knowing that Joe Dante would have made a great Phantom movie.
But how do you feel about the idea of this being played more tongue in cheek and being more of a farcical kind of film?
The second you said Joe Dante, I figured that's what it would have been.
Yeah.
No,
Because like
I
I
think
don't
that's
right
fine.
away see that that's necessarily the right take on this, and one of the things I like about it is how straight everybody's playing it. Like I kind of get the gag if there is a gag, but the characters in the movie aren't playing it that way. But the problem is They are a little wooden.
Mm-hmm.
Like this cast isn't super memorable.
Mm-hmm. No, and he would have brought a ton of energy into this. No, my mind immediately went to like Gremlins 2, but with the Phantom.
Yeah, but I guess the point I'm making is it sounds like they shot a lot of the script he would have shot, and he's just saying that they shot it wrong.
Mm-hmm. What I mean, like I said, in that first big action sequence, like I do wish that it was shot in a more stylish way, and the way he would have
Yeah.
shot it probably would have added to that.
But is acting like part of the problem is the performers aren't playing it funny, and I don't totally get that.
I mean, I think it's just they're not playing it in the way that he would have done, which is a very different type of humor.
Sure.
Because I mean, they're not really playing it funny. Like some of these actors get what they're in, but like,
Besides the villain,
yeah,
who is playing it a lot more over the top.
yeah, exactly. No, that's honestly a shame.
I'm surprised that Christy Swanson is as good of a pick in this as she is, because I don't think she's a great actress.
I don't know if I really know her in anything. What else is she in?
She's the original Buffy
Oh, okay.
and was sort of miscast in that. I guess it depends on who you talk to.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, she seems like an odd pick for old Hollywood girlfriend, but it works out okay. She's not bad.
Yeah, she's fine. I almost watched that for our top 100, both for preparing and because Donald Sutherland had just passed away, and I was like, I should
Yeah.
watch some Donald Sutherland stuff. Maybe I'll knock that out as like a double beat, but then never got to it.
Well, we'll do it here eventually.
Yep, that's the plan. Oh yeah, sorry. When you were talking about the skull thing earlier, I didn't notice the skulls on his shoulders. I much more noticed the kind of details around like the muscles on his suits or on his
Yeah,
suit.
I was trying to explain that to you, but I
No, it's
just
because I
couldn't
didn't.
couldn't get you to figure out what I was talking about.
No, it's because I didn't notice that. Like I noticed how
Oh,
it
okay.
is on the chest, so I went like, oh, like all the other lines are clearly just highlighting
No, a lot of
muscle.
it's some of it's decorative.
Hmm. No, I just noticed that when he was standing there. I was like, oh yeah, he does have skulls on his shoulders.
It's really cool looking.
Yeah, so I wasn't like arguing with you. I didn't pick up on that.
No, I could tell you didn't know what I was talking about. I couldn't figure out how to explain it.
Yeah, it's all good.
So Catherine Zeta-Jones' character, her turn at the end of this is really odd to me
Hmm.
because she's just kind of I'm good now. The
Us
end.
ladies got to stick together. Uh,
Yeah. No, you're right. They find common ground in being the only women in the movie, and like that's it. And she's like, I guess I better help out the other woman in the film. And so it's even talked about, how ruthless she is for no good reason. Like her prevailing character trait is sadism. And then when you get to the third act, we're supposed to trust her. And
well,
that
because
whole
she's
third
in.
act, you're going, okay, at what point is she going to double cross the Phantom's girlfriend? Never happens.
Yeah. Well, 'cause she's like right out of Bond,
Yeah.
and when she's introduced, it's like, oh, she's Xenia Top from Goldeneye, and then
That's kind of true.
ultimately she's Pussy Galore from Goldfinger, in that she like has the pilots and she starts working for the villain, and then flips over by the end. But by this point in the movie, I was like, oh man, I like she's gonna be like the femme fatale, like evil woman that has like a group of all female pilots that are all evil. Like I'm excited by that because when
And
I
they didn't do
first
anything with them.
because when I first saw the movie Octopussy, like it has a similar thing where like she runs a this like all female society, and I was like, oh, that's a really unique idea for a Bond villain, and then she's not that at all,
And that's
and it just made me really
ultimately
disappointed. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll get that out of this. Nope.
well, that's ultimately just an homage to a Phantom story. It turns out where
Oh,
there
okay.
is a Phantom story where, and I think it might be that same character. I'm not sure, but there's
Mhm.
a cadre of all female pilots, and so they put it in the movie.
Oh,
Like it's a
okay.
cool idea. They just
That's
don't.
yeah.
They just don't do anything with it. You know, if this was a serial, you could imagine an entire chapter about that.
No, my ears perked up. I was like, oh, that's a really unique idea. I'm excited to see what they do with it, and ultimately, it was nothing.
No, like I said, I like Zane Fine in this role. I like the way he moves. I don't know that he and Swanson have any chemistry, really.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
A little more by the end. I mean, it's better once he starts kicking around, you know, trying to stay with her. It's also kind of odd that he sends her off, and it's obvious they're going to get together, and then he just has to go after her. And you'd think he would be trying a little harder to find a wife because of the lineage thing.
Mhm.
I was distracted by that this viewing.
Well, yeah, because if he doesn't, he's gonna be like 50 yet also 80 by the time he dies, and his son takes over.
That's true.
Now, I was thinking a bit about Black Panther with that, where it's never stated that T'Challa is Black Panther before T'Chaka dies, but like, there's no way T'Chaka was Black Panther. Also, the Phantom's a real jerk. He just leaves his wolf here.
He'll be all right. You
Yeah,
can be
he's
that
lucky
wolf
they
is
didn't
cool.
just shoot his wolf.
Yeah, the Phantom has a lot in common with both Zorro and Lone Ranger.
Hmm.
He's got to have his, kind of pet sidekick.
We've got his silver.
Yeah,
The shot that we're gonna get soon of a wolf and horse keeping up with the plane is really amusing. Because I was already like, oh, it's really funny that they're acting like a wolf is like, keeping up with the horse that much, and then it cuts back to the plane. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
that's true.
Also, I don't know if you picked up on this, but like in the musical score, they keep doing a sting in this scene that is just the Raimi spider sense,
Yes, they
and it's
do it
really
every
weird.
time something sort of bad is going to happen.
The Phantom spider sense is going off.
And I don't know if this is supposed to be like scores in serials or not, because I've just not watched enough serials probably.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of places, and we were talking over it a minute ago, with the scene with her tied up with Catherine Zeta-Jones there.
Mhm.
But there's all these places where it's scored like a cartoon, where somebody will grab something or hit something, and then the score has to accentuate it.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's very strange.
And it just seems a little overdone in places. And again, I'm of two minds of it about it because there's kind of a cartoonish charm to that, but I can't tell if it's trying to be like fun and cartoony with it, or if it's we really need to emphasize what's happening in case you're not paying attention. I'm not sure sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. Phantom, we're not sinking, we're crashing.
If you think about when Batman came out
Mhm.
and how recent the Phantom was as an idea, I Batman ends up looking like a subversion of an archetype that was there already, which is kind of interesting because the Phantom is really just Batman uh, as a lineage character with guns.
Mhm.
And so Batman's like, what if you had the Phantom that had his own oath that he comes up with on his own that is singular only to him, and if he has an aversion to guns?
Especially as it moves along, like he's even closer to the Phantom earlier on.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, because he does. That's true. Because right away he does have guns.
Yeah. No, he's the Phantom. Obviously, these are things that came out after that are definitely inspired by the Phantom, but is oddly like a cross between Batman and Black Panther.
That's true. And then obviously a lot of the things that I remind you of Batman with the shadow, the Phantom's already got baked in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Exactly.
he's also got a cave, like Zorro did, at least in that movie.
Hmm. Just jump.
And Zorro has the resources thing with Batman. Like he's a wealthy guy that nobody would ever guess is a crusader for the innocent. And the Phantom has resources too, but he's not like gallivanting around like a playboy most of the time.
Hmm.
I actually feel like he almost ought to be more in the shadows than he is. Or at the very least, if he's going to have a secret identity, you'd think that he'd change his last name as a secret identity, because eventually maybe people would start putting stuff together if you had this whole family of walkers. They're like, if you ever figured out one, you'd figure them all out.
Well, they're the family that walkers.
The ghost who walkers. Yeah, I don't know if you put that together, but I'm pretty sure that's why that's his last name.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm glad to see that you're not any more dense than I thought you were, Austin. That's
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, and you have this thought in relating to this to Batman? We
Mhm.
did get this is later in the movie, but we do get Phantom on a horse in the city, which we never got with Batman.
I wasn't thinking about it like that, but you're right.
But Sam Hamm kept trying to make that happen.
Sam Hamm must have gotten so excited when he saw that.
Also, you mentioned Black Panther because of the jungle themes, but you've got
Well, and the legacy thing, like it's
oh,
both.
and the legacy thing, of course. But I was just gonna say you've got pulp characters that have this baked in too. So in the Phantom, there's also a little bit of Tarzan and stuff too.
Well, and I was gonna say that with Tarzan, he's weirdly like the missing link between Tarzan and the superhero genre,
Isn't
if you
that
will.
interesting?
Yeah. No, I was thinking about Tarzan and George the Jungle quite a bit when watching this.
Thanks for joining us live if you're watching right now, folks. I
Mhm.
know this isn't a real big movie, but we got to knock them all out. So thanks for being here.
It's not
Robert,
exactly a big motion picture we're all here to see.
Robert says, do you think this is the best we can get from a Phantom movie? Is this a character we should leave behind? I just don't know if you can update him and make him cool again, as well as the Shadow of Zorro. Okay, real quick, Austin, can I give you my Phantom pitch?
Yeah, I will give my quick answer in that yes, you can update the Phantom, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think you absolutely can. I've said this somewhere on stream before, but what I've always wanted to see with the Phantom is a trilogy of movies, each set in a different time period with a different Walker played by the same actor all three times.
Oh yeah, I have heard you talk about that now that you say that, and that
That
is a cool idea.
that's what you do with this character, right? You do one set in the 30s, and then you set one present day, and then you set one far in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
The Phantom 2049 was a really cool idea, and I think that was a TV show, and I never saw it. And it also had a video game that was decent on
Mhm.
Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Yeah. No, I feel like if you're making an update to the Phantom, one of the things you look at is like the best scene in Black Panther, which is that opening truck scene, where he like comes out of the trees. Uh, like that's the type of stuff I feel like you should be looking at to update this.
One thing that would be fun to explore too is through the generations, how difficult does it get to continue to pretend like the Phantom is supernatural? Can you keep up the urban legend thing as people get more desensitized and as we get more technological progress? Because it feels, by today's standards, like kind of a quaint idea. And even for some people, Batman feels like a quaint idea where you put on that costume and you can actually scare anybody. Probably just because Batman's popular. We all know what that looks like. But with the Phantom, the idea is nobody ever even questions the idea that this guy is not a ghost and that maybe there are multiples of him. Like nobody ever thinks, oh, maybe it's a bunch of different people. They
Mm-hmm.
just go, I killed him. How did he come back? Well, he's a guy in a costume. He could be some other guy in a costume. Why didn't you think of that? And it's a thing that you can kind of get away with when, in an earlier, more naive time, when just like dressing up like Dr. Jekyll or somebody would freak out everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mr. Hyde, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's harder to scare people as we move forward in time.
Well, I feel like one of the things you do moving forward in time with the Phantom is like developing into the area that he's in, right?
What do you mean?
Like in terms of like building like settlements and cities and stuff, and like harvesting resources, things like that, where like it starts to encroach into the area where the ghost walks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I thought you meant like he gets smarter and he just develops a network of phantoms.
A bunch of Phantom fans, if you will. No, that's what I was thinking of. Was just like I guess more like urban development, but like maybe a little bit different because it's in like the jungle. But
I do feel like watching this with
meanwhile,
you.
in Home Alone 2,
I do feel like watching this with you. It's moving a little slow,
oh,
and
I'm sorry.
no, I don't mean that you're making it. I'm just saying this viewing
Hmm.
right now, it's feeling a little slower than it did even when I watched it the other day.
Yeah.
Where we're 46 minutes into an hour and 40-minute movie, and it feels like it's maybe a little long in the tooth, even as short as it is.
And there's just weird stuff like I don't know. Some like I feel like we're still introducing things, and we're almost
That's
an
what I was
hour.
gonna say. Is this is our, like, we've already seen this guy, but this is our more proper introduction to the villain as the main villain, and it comes kind of late.
Well, I think it's going to be another like 15 minutes before we get like a proper introduction of Billy Zane out of costume.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, I'm kind of wrong on what I just said because he did, hurt or kill that guy with the microscope.
Mhm. I guess sorry, not out of costume, more so like him meeting the love interest, I should say, because he has been out
Yeah,
of costume. But you know what I mean.
but this just does feel like a scene that should be like 20 minutes earlier than this.
Hmm. No, it just feels like even past an hour in, we're still introducing things. If you're wondering where she was, Carmen Sandiego is in this scene, played by Sarah Jones.
That's where in the world she is. That's actually where in time she is too. That's great. Billy Zane out of costume almost gets a better introduction than the Phantom.
I mean, he does. Look at this cool shot. He's dressed like Doc Ock and Spider-Man too.
I also feel like the city stuff, in its way, looks a little bit more stylized than the jungle stuff. It's reminding me a lot of what the Shadow looked like.
I think it's because you can tell it's not modern day, while it's maybe harder to tell sometimes in the jungle.
Yeah, because you're just out in nature.
You're just, yeah, out in nature, exactly. And you're following a man in purple spandex, like that could be any time. But now it's like, okay, we're specifically, in the 30s.
This cab driver is going to seem real endearing later because he's constantly helping out our hero, but he's only doing that because he got rich.
Well, that was making me think of like
That's
Escape
his
from New York.
prevailing character trait.
Hmm. No, he's like the cabbie from Escape from New York.
Yeah, well, and speaking of the Shadow, like he's also got his cab driver that's driving a cab that looks a lot like that.
True. He's got his network.
And there's no good reason those two characters couldn't be in the same universe. And I
We
know
we have to have had a crossover with them,
what
no?
I was gonna say. I bet Dynamite's done it at least because they had, and I can't remember what it was called, but they had a book of pulp heroes they put all on a team together. And I
I was
think
gonna say someone at some point has made a Pulp Hero team, right?
it may have included both the Phantom and the Shadow, and I think it might have. And there is a publication history of the Phantom in regular comics outside of the newspaper strip. Because DC had the license at one time, and they did some decent stuff in the 80s that I've read a little bit of.
Now that you're talking about this, I want to make a parody of Super Friends with the Pulp Heroes, where the Phantom is the Aquaman, where it's like every story finds a way to have some sort of jungle, just so that the Phantom can do something.
That's great. In the comics, the Brotherhood is called the Sing Brotherhood, and it was changed to Sang apparently because they were worried about offending people whose name was Sing, which never stopped Star Trek with Khan, but okay.
Well, and screw people named Sang, I guess.
Maybe that's just not a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, Ray, sit down.
Go sit down, Ray.
And this is one of those scenes where you know exactly what's about to happen, but it's still fun.
Well, you know exactly what's going to happen, but then how it happens is so ridiculous. You know, like, what?
Yeah, it's great.
And I think it wouldn't be as funny if it just happened. It's the fact that he like walks over and like the guy's just like stuck on the wall.
And then he pulls it out and drops him to the floor.
Yeah, that's what makes it funnier.
I'm glad you're dead. And this guy in the pinstripe suit only plays this character in anything I've ever seen him in.
Yes. No, you can just look at this guy and you know that's the only role he's ever
He's
played.
just gangster guy. Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
Now he's gangster guy working for Howard Stark.
yeah. You know, I'll also say, I well, and actually before I make that point, you're right. He does kind of look like that. And then you have that whole Howard Hughes thing with the villain in Rocketeer, who's a much more interesting villain than this guy. But they've
Yeah.
they've uh, they've got that in common, right? Where like they're hiding in plain sight and they're real public characters, but they're trying to take over the world in some way.
Well, now that you say that, this is in no way intentional, but just kind of amusing to me as a Bond fan. Uh, it's funny that you have that connection because this guy is named Drax, and then Ian Fleming's Hugo Drax is a secret Nazi that's like hiding within the British government, which is what Timothy Dalton is in The Rocketeer. Or no, is that who that is? It's been so long since I watched that. I think that's who that bad guy is.
And now it's time for what I supposed was a love triangle that doesn't go anywhere.
She's so attracted by his wig.
But I was gonna say, really weird way. If you go back to The Mask,
Mhm.
and I'm probably saying this just because of how that is shot and looks like one of these kind of gangster movies. Um, it plays a little bit like another '90s, like pulp hero sort of movie, but it's not based on material that was that at all.
No, but it's very much made in this period where this is what we're doing.
Well, and it's almost like it's got to be made with that sensibility because it's a character people don't know, and so that's what we do with these.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going back to '89 to some degree, and it's still doing the kind of Dick Tracy gangster thing.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess makes sense with the cartoon idea too, like where you're going back to just 40s cartoons as well.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, it does feel like that idea at least comes from a place. It's in that movie. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel random. And I don't love those comics, so I was always really relieved that that's the direction they went with it.
Yeah, I picked them up on sale not that long ago. At some point, I will read them.
We should
But
review those. They're really juvenile.
Dan really loves the Mass comics, so
Oh, does he really?
we can trick him to get on there.
No, we should. Maybe he'll turn me around on it. I haven't read those in a long time, but
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, he was the one that was like, "Oh, you should check these out," and I was like, "Oh, they're on sale. I might as well pick them up." We'll see how it goes. But I have like 8 million comics to catch up on, so
I always have that. So you're the Phantom, and like I said, you've got a duty not just to be a vigilante and help the downtrodden, but you also have to make sure that the legacy continues. So you'd be in more of a hurry, I would think, to get married and have children.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I would think that by like 20, you'd be working really hard on finding somebody. And then
more than one, just like keep pumping them out.
well, that's what I was gonna say. And then beyond that, you gotta make sure you have enough because what if they're all girls?
Mm-hmm.
And I just mean for the sensibilities of this period and these comics, like they're planning. They're all supposed to be men.
Well, his idea cap is to live.
I think we've had
enough.
a female Phantom at this point.
His idea was to live long enough so that he would be replaced in the 2010s and he would have a daughter. He's like, I know exactly where society's going.
I'm pretty sure they just called up the prop master from '89 and asked him for the guns from that movie.
Probably. They should have included the gun sound effects.
They should have. I love the ricochets in that movie.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. Like when I heard the audio was remixed for the 4K, I looked it up and I was like, oh, they like really downplayed. Like, I think they either removed it or they really downplayed that sound effect and added like regular gun
I
noises.
heard about that. People complained so hard,
Yeah, I was like, this sucks.
and I was like, I'll never watch it like that. I just can't even have it.
Why would you do that?
That makes it a different movie for me. I can't have that.
If anything, they should give a middle finger to Nolan and add those sound effects to his movies.
I think this scene is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just how hammy he's playing this. And he gets really excited when windows start breaking. He's like, supernatural stuff is happening, folks.
Well, now he's doing the sun thing and from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Austin, he's got the power of the sun in the palm of his hand. Amazing. What makes you think you could even control this? Like, I'm so excited about all this power.
The
And then
power to
that's-
make random glass break?
Yeah. You have all these villains in movies like this that I don't know what they think power means sometimes, where it's like, I got all this power. It's like raw energy. I'm going to somehow use that to take over the world. I don't know. I'm going to direct that in some way. And that's where you get into the whole, are you trying to take over the world or destroy it thing? Because it seems more likely you'd blow it up. I don't know.
He's gonna rob the Museum of Glass, and if they don't, give him money, he'll smash all the glass with his powerful skulls.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So the skulls are supposed to take him to where the other skull is.
Mm-hmm.
If that map wasn't conveniently there, what would they have done?
They would have Omega beamed it, where they would have just like zigzagged until they found a map.
Oh, okay. And then no one would have seen where the beam went, so they're screwed.
Well, no, because then you just got to follow it
How long would the beam stay there?
until you find the map and get the exposition you need.
Wow, that's a lot of people getting killed by beam.
Well, it's like a very mystical thing where it's like they know exactly once the exposition has been reached.
I don't think Kit Walker's ghost dad is all that much younger than the cab driver.
No, he's definitely quite a bit older than the cab driver.
Okay, I feel like somebody was really impressed with the furniture selection for this set
Hmm.
because those orange chairs get a lot of coverage.
Somebody kept those chairs, right?
Oh yeah, this is a cool set.
Yeah, it does look good.
Like there was some, real care taken with some of this movie. Certainly, like it's not a straight up like cheap throwaway movie like I have heard it talked about before.
Hmm. No, but if you're not digging on it, like it's easier to feel like it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have Vicky Vale's fireplace in the background, just painted black.
You know how a normal person
Sees a fireplace and then asks, "Does it come in black?"
Robert, are you ever going to watch the 2009 two-part Phantom sci-fi miniseries? I've heard it's dreadful. I've heard that too, but I've always been curious about it, so I will do that at some point. It doesn't technically count for this show, so I don't know if I would do it as a blind watch. It's weird because nobody will be able to watch it with me, or if I'll just watch it and rant about it somewhere. But yes, I'm too curious not to look at that at some point. I actually looked that up the other day to see, how to get it and what it would cost. That's like a $8 or $9 box set.
See, I thought you had to get like 2 bottles of Crystal Skull vodka and then hold them together, and then it'll show you a map to where you can watch that.
It shows you where the third bottle of Crystal Skull is, and then that's directed by a fourth skull that's on a belt that then
Yes.
tells you where better vodka is.
Yes. And if you ask Dan Aykroyd about it, he'll ramble on about aliens and 9/11.
So this is the most 89 looking scene in the movie, yeah?
Probably.
Like when they walk in here, just the way this is lit in this location, like this is just Axis chemicals all over again.
Just with a giant industrial fan.
Yeah, was there not a fan in Axis chemicals?
Not that I remember.
The way that we shot Drax there, like the angle of that when he's pointing his gun at the Phantom, that is just Jack Napier in that scene.
Yeah, it was.
That is that exact angle. The only difference is there's strobe effects here. Like that's it. And of course, Drax is not going to turn into the Joker.
No, but someone should have been thrown through this fan.
Or I'm sorry, not Drax. The other Quill.
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 I do feel like the Phantom could have had a really cool action figure.
Yeah, probably.
He didn't, but he could have.
I also feel like Quill could have been Peter Quill's grandfather. Like that could still count.
Oh sure. It'd be funny if that was his bizarre backstory.
He's Indiana Jones. Peter Quill would love that. Well, evil Indiana
No,
Jones.
he was a mob enforcer.
But he's got the fedora. Like, he looks like Indiana Jones. I guess is more so what I meant.
He
But
was
yeah.
a mob enforcer that worked for a guy that was trying to get raw power from some skulls to somehow take over the world. And then his son somewhat conveniently ends up going out into space and works with a guy named Drax. Honestly, that's the thing that makes the whole thing untenable for me, Austin. I'm sorry. I don't think I can. It's just too contrived.
You can't have too many Draxes.
Not also with a Quill. It's too much.
Oh. That's what that place should have been called, is Draxus Chemicals.
That was a great line. That was a great line. Can we get another read of that line? She's our phantom insurance.
He's also giving instructions to Lorne Michaels. He's like, Lorne Michaels, you run this building now.
Does flipping the guns help?
Yes.
We get the one cool token bit at the end where he crosses his arms when he shoots his dual firearms, which is a big
He's like,
classic Phantom thing. And it's like they forgot to do it the whole movie. So they train the camera on him and they make sure he does it a bunch, like right there in one scene.
that's like the big Avengers Assemble moment. Like, that's when everyone was clapping and screaming in the theater. They're like, oh my god, he did it. He did this thing.
So Roger Ebert at the time called this one of the best looking movies he'd ever seen. And I think it looks all right, but I don't know what he's talking about. I think even The Shadow is a better looking movie than that.
Yeah.
Certainly a more interesting looking movie.
I mean, Roger Ebert also said Anaconda is a very creative movie.
And he praised Spawn for its inventive version of hell.
And he said Home Alone 3 is the best Home Alone.
I'm seriously considering a reaction series at some point to Siskel and Ebert videos. I think that would be such a fun thing to do on the channel.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like some of those baffling ones.
Robert, what movie do you think you quote more, Batman Forever or Galaxy Quest? Definitely Batman Forever. Like, I love Galaxy Quest. I don't know that there's a lot of lines I quote from that.
When I haven't seen Galaxy Quest, so obviously like I'm not gonna pick up on that, but I would have said Batman Forever just because you quote that movie a lot.
A lot, yeah. And there he is on his horse. He's on his high horse, Austin.
Ah, that damn Phantom.
Man, I sure wish I had Phantom insurance.
It's not even the same horse.
Can I repeat a point I made earlier for emphasis?
No.
Okay.
Oh, what is it?
Boy, I wish we hadn't done Zorro first.
Yes. Also, every time they shoot in one of these chases where they have like the bullet hitting effect, it looks so bad.
Oh, it does, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. But you wouldn't complain.
We're kind of caught up.
If only it had the ricochet sound effect from '89, you wouldn't complain. Then you'd be perfectly happy with it.
Oh, I'd be so happy.
Why can't anyone in this shoot anything?
Because it's an old serial.
See, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, I guess it's okay because it's doing that, and they make a joke about it in one or two places.
What's back there? The zoo. What an exchange.
No, you know what's in there, Austin?
The zoo, apparently.
No, McAvoy from Split.
Oh no,
he's in there.
That'd be a completely different movie if suddenly Split is in this and he's fighting the Phantom.
I would love that.
That sounds awesome.
That's immediately a cooler movie. So I don't know if there's a reference there because I don't know the Phantom well enough, but I feel like there's something with Phantom and Bengal tigers.
Probably.
Am I wrong about this?
Hangs out in the jungle.
Yeah, that seems like something they did on purpose for like the 5 people in the audience that would get it and be like, you gotta have that bit where Phantom's with a tiger.
Tigers are also just awesome.
They are.
They're objectively the best animal.
And I also think it's fun that he's been in the city for 10 minutes and he already found a way to get in another cave.
Well, he found a way to go to the zoo.
That's why it's back there. It's the zoo.
I'm surprised you didn't have a line like, "Oh, my jungle home stuck in a cage."
Okay, so yeah, she said, and I love this writing. It's hilarious. What's wrong with you? Don't you care about anything? And I wish she just left it at what is wrong with you, and they just lingered on her for too long because that would have been really funny.
Well,
Uh,
the way she says it is like that speech everyone makes fun of in the It miniseries, where she's like, "Why is he so mean?" Like,
but that's established as her prevailing character trait. She's just mean to everyone, and it's the other female character that points it out. So they're gonna have this character growth together by the end because they're women.
I mean, sisters unite.
You know what? I'm gonna double down on 79 here.
On 70. Oh, for the age of this guy,
The
yeah.
age I think his father is.
He was weathered. He was the Phantom.
But to answer your question from earlier, the reason I'm pretty positive that the Phantom is not crazy and that's an actual ghost is because he seems to give Kit Walker information he didn't have.
I guess that's true, yeah. But we're so fast and loose with that type of stuff all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it's. But you're probably right. It probably just is. He's talking to the actual spirit of his father.
But yeah, he's giving him lore stuff.
But then, I don't know. I feel like it makes that whole legacy a little bit lamer if you just talk to the last one anytime you want.
Yeah, I don't like that. But again, there's a part of me that doesn't want any supernatural stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
The MacGuffin plot in this also, and this comes later, but reminds me a little bit of Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm. The games specifically or the movies?
No, the movie.
Oh, okay. Which one?
The first one. I don't even remember what happens in that second one at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you're talking about the reboot as well.
No. Well, because the reboot doesn't do the supernatural stuff, I don't think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Or does it? I don't remember what.
Because I've never seen the reboot, but the game that it's based off of does. So I just assumed that it took from that. The
Oh no,
second
what am I
one's got
talking about?
Daniel Craig in it.
Sorry, no, it does. With the with the tomb they go in at the end. I just wasn't thinking about it right. But with Tomb Raider, I'm talking about the MacGuffin plot because it's a really similar MacGuffin plot, if memory serves.
Yeah. It's been so long since I've seen those. All I remember is Daniel
Same
Craig's
here.
the villain of the second one.
Who's that?
Daniel Craig.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I saw both of those in the theater.
I was having like a family board game night, and my one aunt was like, "Oh my God, Laura Croft, Angelina Jolie is like my personal hero," and I was like, "Why?" She's all right, I guess.
Look, you can't knock people's personal heroes, okay?
I,
They can't always explain why.
yeah, no, I will knock everyone's heroes down a peg. I don't know why I said that not in a walking voice, but with that inflection. It's like knock them down a peg.
Yeah, that was an odd choice. I'm glad I was here for that. See, Austin, this is a thin plot here.
Oh, easily, yeah. Phantom, I feel like you jumped off that plane a little early, and I have to swim really far.
Yeah, how long does it take that costume to dry? I wonder.
Oh, I can't even imagine. That'd be so annoying to be
You're
wet
just
in.
walking around in a sock, sopping wet.
You're socking wet.
You're socking wet.
Well, now I just need a modern Phantom movie with somebody yelling, "You're dressed in a sock."
I do feel like if this is supposed to be a film serial, it could have benefited from a couple of extra subplots.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it feel more like it's broken up into episodes. maybe even intentionally give it some kind of pointless subplots that aren't that important and don't really go anywhere.
What
Like
also would have
really
been
lean into the serial thing.
also if you had more villains, like if you did kind of like and obviously this is way later, but like the Batman thing where you kind of have like little sections where you're mainly focusing on one, and like that's kind of where you have your episode breaks.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the Phantom doesn't really have any like death trap cliffhangers.
Hmm.
Even the Shadow had that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can do just a big action scene with each one. Like, and I mean, even with the characters we have already, like you could have Quill be like the big one at the beginning, and then Catherine Zeta-Jones later, and then this guy, and then Shang Tsung. Be right. Like you need that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and Catherine Zeta-Jones' character could have been a lot more flirtatious with the Phantom and been kind of like a '60s like Catwoman kind of thing.
Well, instead, she just sees him and she's like, "You're cool. I'm gonna kiss you," and then it never comes up again.
Yeah, it never comes up again. Well, she's got that weird line earlier where she's like, "Well, he must really be in love because he picked her over me,
Hmm.
and nobody would do that unless they were in love. Like you think very highly of yourself."
I mean, she is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I'm also trying to imagine if this had happened in the Spawn movie with Jessica Priest, where instead of her dying, she's just this horrible, horrible, sadistic human being, and then in the third act, she just helps out Spawn.
But she helps out Wanda. She's like, "Us girls gotta hang out together." Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. That would have been great, and
That
made
sounds
even
great.
better by the fact that in that movie, she's the person that kills Al Simmons.
Hmm. You could have had a joke about it. She's like, sorry for killing you, Spawn," and he's like, he gives her a thumbs up, and he flies away into the night.
So when do you think is the last time this guy got out of this cavern? Because I know they're pirates, but I get the sense that he sends out people and he's just always here.
Well, yeah, because they had like Mauser gun, like pistols, so they've interacted with people. But this guy specifically, I don't know, probably like never.
And I like how he hams it up too. Like all the villain actors do a pretty good job with that.
Oh well, this guy's always fun whenever he shows up in something.
Yeah. We just had to sit through him spelling his own name.
Maybe he won the spelling bee. Can I can I have it used in a sentence, please?
We came up with everybody's favorite tattoo.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I wish we'd had this guy earlier. Forget what I said about keeping him in the background. I wish we'd had him halfway through the movie.
Yeah, because when he showed up, I was like, "Oh my god, the Mandarin just entered this movie." Like, yes, give me more of this. And that's not exactly what it is, but like, it's still a lot more fun.
Well, he could be the Mandarin. He'd have magical skulls instead of rings.
Yeah, I guess that is true.
If you count the eyes, you're six. You're six on your way to 10.
The Phantom and the Legend of the Six Eyes and Skulls.
I love how Sang just lets this guy go on and on and on, and then he's just like hit him with a cannon.
Like, I doesn't even move. Like, it takes
And
him
then
like
that
a minute to fire that cannon.
that's what I couldn't figure out. Where he's like, well, you've got all this time to shoot your gun. Just shoot
Well,
your gun.
when they're like preparing the cannon, and he's like, "What did you just say?" And he's like, "What I told him was fire the cannon." But like they were preparing the cannon the whole time.
Like they knew he was gonna say that.
Yeah.
His best line delivery is "Mr. New York City." It's great. He seems to really hate America for some, or like big American cities for some reason.
He should have said your skull is mine.
Oh, if only you and I could go back in time and rewrite the script, Austin.
I know, right? That'd be the only change we'd make. Just
I
that.
was gonna say the shocking thing would be all the things that I left in, because I would leave things like "What is wrong with you?" But then she doesn't say anything else in that scene because it's way funnier if she doesn't.
No, it would become a motif. Like she would say that to this guy,
Yeah, she shows up. God, what is wrong with you?
and then he just looks and he nods at one of his henchmen, and they start lighting up the cannon again.
I think you deserve to be shot with a cannon if you stare at people with a cannon when you have a gun trained on them and you could fire at any time and then you just go, huh?
That and the way he goes flying is so goofy. Like,
Yeah, it looks like a stunt show at a theme park. It looks like you're at Universal Studios. But it's one of the best looking movies Roger Ebert ever saw. And that's
so
his best
wild.
line delivery. She is his girlfriend. Like all of a sudden he's channeling Jane Jonah Jameson or something. Get one with me and the mayor's girlfriend.
Well, and that was one of the big ones where I'm like, oh, he sounds exactly like Jim Carrey. Like I can hear Ace Ventura yelling that. She is his girlfriend.
He's out of our hair. Yeah, he's just got such a used car salesman thing.
Yeah, exactly. Which is then weird because he will be the main villain, but like, it feels like this guy should be.
Yeah.
Like
See,
even at this point, like it feels like.
See, now he's crossing his arms. He hasn't done that the whole movie.
Yeah.
To be fair, he hasn't really shot his guns much.
No, he hasn't really, and even now he's only shooting swords out of people's hands. It's like he's shooting them.
I can't tell if they're the same gun, because I read this today. In the comics, he's supposed to have two different kinds of guns. I didn't know that.
I think they are just matching, but probably because cinematically it looks cooler when they match.
Yeah, they look like twin firearms, but I was surprised to find that out, that in the strip they're different. They're different guns.
He's firing his guns akimbo. And now Catherine Zeta-Jones is fighting like she's in a Charlie's Angels movie.
It just occurred to me that you Phantoms might be different people. I mean, that's fun comic book logic. I'm not knocking that or anything.
Mm-hmm. No, it's like the right amount of silly.
But the Phantom is an unusual character, to my point earlier, in that you actually can get away with putting him in any time period you want to, and it doesn't feel wrong or inauthentic because he's supposed to be a legacy character that goes on forever. So anytime I see a modern Shadow story, I'm like, I don't know if I care about that. Like, I kind of want Shadow to always be in the 30s. But the Phantom, I love the idea of a futuristic Phantom.
Well, I feel like he's maybe the only pulp character where that works.
Yeah.
Because like I also don't want modern Zorro. I don't want modern Rocketeer, modern Dick Tracy, modern. I don't really know as much about Doc Savage, so maybe.
Well, I realize Rocketeer is a later creation, but he's set in a particular time period. I don't really.
Well, it's throwing back to that
it's throwing back to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same logic as I don't want modern Indiana Jones. I don't even like that we went to the 50s and 60s with that.
And he's already dead.
He got eaten by his sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their head.
Thanks for your help, sadist lady. Whose prevailing character trait is you don't care about anyone. And you expect them to play it like, well, she's helping him now because it's, gonna help her save her own life.
No, now she's just her character from Zorro.
Yeah, and she's not gonna double cross him or anything. You'd figure the whole thing's just self-serving, but nope.
They should have had a callback, and it should have been like, why are you so good? Why do you choose to be?
It's the opposite of a mole character in 24, where you have a character that seemed fine and then now they're acting evil because we know they're evil. It's the exact flip of that.
But the best part is there's no real turn or twist.
No.
We just entered a new scene.
Well, and retroactively, because she never turns on the Phantom or his girlfriend, that moment where she like smiles at the Phantom and they make a big deal out of it in the score seems to be telling the audience she's good now.
Yeah, that's it.
Also, I don't know if I would trust even the hero whose name is in the title this much to be sure that he's going to navigate this right, where we're not going to accidentally hit something and explode. Because we're riding around in a torpedo, and she's like, well, what if we hit something? We're going to blow up. And he's like, no, I'm going to watch you on the periscope and make sure you don't hit anything. I'm like, yeah, I trust that.
I mean, he's an authority. He has his purple spandex. He knows what's up.
This plan is foolproof. What could possibly go wrong? It's not like I'm going to have to fight Quill.
I mean, but look how easy to kill Quill is.
These flying skulls look great. That really holds up from 1996.
No, we're into some of the weird effects, because there's also the explosion when the bad guy dies.
Could you guys try harder to make it look like that guy is being hit into anything?
No.
This is one of the best looking movies Roger Ebert ever.
I feel like every now and then that text should just appear on screen.
Well, Austin, you know how I'll sometimes, with really bad acting, like take my hands across the screen and go, acting? Yeah. I decided to start doing that with writing.
Okay.
Writing. Now I want to do it with directing. Directing.
But like, take that shot where Quill gets obliterated and just write one of the best looking movies Roger Ebert has ever seen.
This is one of the places where he was reminding me a little bit of Kilmer, just in his line delivery and cadence.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can kind of hear it. I can kind of see where you're coming from. Now they're having the Schwartz fight.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm really confused about this whole thing, because I thought the point was the skull directed where the beams went. If you push the skull into the thing, I'm not sure why it does this.
I don't know. I also don't know why the bad guy starts doing the Michael Jackson lean.
Yeah, and then a Michael Jackson sounding cackle. Oh, wow, that's rough.
Oh, no, it looks bad.
I think I turned away from the screen the other day for some reason, because I did not notice that.
One of the best looking movies Roger has ever seen.
Ever seen. My goodness.
That's probably what Siskel said.
Well, they were both on two extreme opposites.
Hmm. Oh, Siskel hated this and
Yeah, and I
loved
was
it.
like, Siskel, it's a little better than you think it is. And all Ebert, it's not nearly as good as you think it is.
I mean, at least Siskel didn't dox Billy Zane for this movie, I guess.
All I want right now with the Phantom out on, well, that's a classic looking shot. I like that. But the Phantom out on the water like this,
Hmm.
I really want him to do the thing Adam West does in the '60s movie with the buoy and be like, "Confound it, the batteries are dead." It's also weird to get to the end of the movie and the Phantom is finally explaining his backstory.
Yeah. Did
You see
was
what I'm
that like
saying?
the original voiceover for the beginning, and then they just put it later?
400 years ago. Well, it's like, I mean, I like that it's in scene like this. He's explaining it to her, and so we're getting more of it. We knew some of this, but it's playing it like he's supposed to be more mysterious this whole movie than he's been playing.
Hmm. Well, and this is the spot where you can see, or maybe we could see it earlier when we were in this area, that his dad was only 50, even though he's clearly like 103.
He hung out with the Terror.
Grandpa Simpson walks in, and they're like, "Oh, he's only 50." Like, I don't know, movie.
One day, your son will take your place. So we better get married so you can have one of those.
That's exactly what he should have said. That would have been really romantic. Just, I need a new legacy. Give me some
Let's
sugar.
let's get hitched, lady.
Let us get hitched, lady friend of mine. She just loves a man in purple spandex.
She loves purple.
Yeah. I don't want to see Billy Zane make the face that Joker does.
I don't want to see anybody make that face.
No, I don't even want to see Joker make that face. That is the objectively worst part of '89. I hate that shot.
Okay, I have a theory about the 50-year-old ghost that looks 79. Are you ready for my theory?
Yes.
This is the only movie universe you've ever seen where after they die, ghosts keep aging.
But even then, like it's only like 4 years later.
They age faster than normal.
That guy does not look too far away from Alec Baldwin when he's being exercised in Beetlejuice.
So this is the Batman Returns thing where he's going to take his mask off and then the black on his eyes will disappear.
Oh yeah.
It's not as egregious as I remember it because I always thought I remembered it happening more in close-up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still silly.
Well, with Returns, it's the 1-2 double punch of it's not just like he takes his mask off and he doesn't have it. It's that he rips his rubber mask off because
Yeah.
it's just rubber.
So I don't know exactly why he said that, like in the context of the scene, because she's pegged him. Like he knows that she knows his identity,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's about to take his mask off, and he hesitates, and he says, "I'm not permitted to reveal all my secrets." And I'm like, she knows the secret she just said. I don't know what that means right now. And then he takes his mask off anyway. I have no idea why he said that.
Well, she's not permitted to know his sign.
She's not permitted to know the combination of his locker at the gym.
The combination of the locker in his cave.
She's not permitted to know the age of his father.
No, even he doesn't know that. he's not permitted to know that they have to have a child now.
Okay, and then that's baffling. The voiceover at the end is baffling.
Mhm.
I don't know why that movie doesn't end with and then they run off together and get married.
No, the voiceover at the end might have just been Mary Jane, don't you cry, you can give it a try when the sequel comes around.
And then that never happened.
No, but it almost did in 2008.
That's so weird.
And they were gonna bring back that like main trinity of Billy Zane,
So there was Joe
other
Dante's
girl,
credit
and
that he didn't want.
Zeta Jones. Oh, okay.
That's really funny.
That is great.
He goes, I'm one of a zillion, direct quote, I'm one of a zillion producers.
I mean, he's not wrong.
It's like Star Trek Discovery level.
Is there anyone in Hollywood that didn't produce this movie?
The dog got a producer credit.
David Newman. His lame music.
It's not the best. At least it all fits together and feels like it's of a piece. I'll give it that. We've done some movies that did not have that.
That is true.
And I will also give this movie credit for not playing some prissy 90s pop song through the credits. I do appreciate that it's score all the way through. That's nice.
Okay, but 96, what song are you adding to the end of this movie? Let's do it. Let's pitch a prissy 90s song to shove into this.
I don't know. I'd have to look up some things and see what was out right then. What's the pop ballad?
Let's see. I almost looked up prissy 1996 songs.
Okay, so what's the song gonna be, and why is it gonna be by Pearl Jam?
Oh, I thought it had to be like I was thinking something more like a pop singer.
Yeah, it probably should be.
Hmm.
I don't know why I went with Pearl Jam.
I gotta go with "I Love You Always Forever" by Donna Lewis because that would be especially funny, given that they don't end up together at the
That's
end.
Yeah, they don't, but they do, right? Like the voiceover says, eventually they'll get around to it.
Mhm.
And then 79-year-old previous Phantom is like, and then I can get some rest. Hi, I used to be the Phantom. I didn't have a voiceover earlier in the movie, but we're gonna pretend like I. Well, actually, maybe that is him talking at the beginning, and I just didn't pick up on that's who that was supposed to be.
My
It
secondary.
doesn't watch like a bookend.
No. Well, it's also so short. My second option is going to be Spice Girls Wannabe because that was 96, because that would also be amusing.
That's great. Okay, well, let's go ahead and go to ratings, and we'll start, of course, with the tweet length ratings on or tweet length reviews if we got any.
There's nothing on Discord and there's barely any on Patreon. I looked earlier. There's 3 comments, but
There was one that just said I've not seen this movie.
and there was another one that just said Billy Zaniacs represent.
Carl Maxey, haven't seen it in a while, but I remember it being a fun pulp action adventure. Billy Zane brought the character to life. The thought of the mantle being passed down to each son was very interesting lore to me. And there's so much you can do with that. Absolutely. It's, you know what's also weird about this?
What's that?
It's one of the few concepts that's actually kind of begging for sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of things, you're like, oh, why do you have to sequel make that? Why can't it just be one standalone thing? It's like, no, the Phantom, I kind of want more than one if it's good.
I want one specifically with that 80-year-old man, like a prequel to when he was 50, with that actor.
Oh yeah, Jojira did say Billy Zaniacs.
Yeah, that will always stick with me. I will always think of Billy Zaniacs.
That's pretty good.
That should be the next big WB cartoon. Forget Animaniacs. We're all about Billy Zaniacs.
So the Billy Zaniacs. They thought the Phantom was kind of whack.
No, they should love the
They're
Phantom.
Billy. If you don't like the Phantom, then you are whack.
There you go. There you go. You fixed
I
it.
fixed it. Anyway, $5 tier
Wait
on
a minute.
Patreon, folks.
Mountaintop Bob Kane.
Look, I'm trying to advertise.
Sorry.
$5 tier on Patreon if you'd like to leave a tweet-length review for a future commentary. And we will, of course, unveil next week's commentary. We'll reveal the movie we're doing at the end of this stream. But right now, we're going to go to our personal ratings, and we will rate on the 5-prong scale of legend, superhero, hero, villain, and supervillain, and I can't even think of it. Nemesis, thank you.
Nemesis.
And as usual, I'm gonna let Austin go first.
Oh God, I don't feel good about a rating. I think
It's between two, yeah.
it is between two. I think I'm gonna go with a high villain.
Oh, yeah.
It's between that and a low hero, and I think okay. I would say the last half of that movie I enjoyed a lot more talking over it with you, but I also have to factor in my own watch of it too, where I was bored like almost the whole time, and I
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
had that through the first 40 minutes. So I'm gonna say that, but like it's like a high one, like it's almost there.
Yeah, and the names that we gave that I gave these is kind of disingenuous because villain screams, okay, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not.
No, villain's more like it's not great.
Yeah, and hero of course is neutral. So like
Yeah, okay.
you're working toward bad, but you're not necessarily straight up terrible.
Yeah.
No, I'm having a tough time between the two also, Austin, but I feel like partly because I have been defending this movie for years as being misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And I still stand by that. I'm just not on about it as much as I used to be.
Well, it's not an awful movie. Like I stand by with you on that.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna say hero, but it's a really low one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like it
we're probably
enough
about
I
the
can't
same.
say villain. And I also think I stand by putting it on my list still. But I don't know if I would have put it as high.
Over Wong though.
Yeah. That's a different list, sir.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're
Okay,
right.
let's do rankings now. And let me figure out where I'm gonna put mine. Austin, I did catch up my rankings.
Oh, okay, cool. I was looking earlier and I was like, oh, he still hasn't caught up on it. That's gonna get like more and more awkward. Not that I was like, oh, Cap, how dare you? But that was
So
just kind of amusing.
it's funny, I keep putting everything above the Ultimate Avengers movies.
I mean,
Did not love those.
no, they suck.
Do I? And everybody ignore the star counts because those are from the old Rewind ratings, and they that might change. And we're doing a 5-prong one now instead of 4.
But 3 out of 5 with the Phantom specifically is probably about where you have it.
I think so. I think you're right. So where I'm at right now is it? Do I put it above or below Tim Story Fantastic Four?
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But then I've got Moonwalker above Fantastic Four, and I think I would put it above that slightly.
Moonwalker's definitely better than Tim Story Fantastic.
No, I know. You rate that differently than me.
But Tim Story Fantastic Four is also super dull and just bad. Like everything it's trying to do, it's doing badly. Moonwalker, like to its credit, is attempting things that are baffling and I don't understand them. But like it's accomplishing what it's attempting to do.
Well, when I'm comparing it to this, like when you just look at this versus something like Tim Story's Fantastic Four, I think
Mhm.
this is a better representation of its source material.
Mhm. I would say overall this is a much better movie than Fantastic Four, but you probably like that movie a little bit more than I do, to be fair.
Maybe by like a smidge, but because I've like really come down on it quite a bit over the years. But um, I also have more of a dog in that fight. You know what I mean? Like I've got more of a clear vision in my head of what I want Fantastic Four to be, and that ain't it. And the
Mhm.
Phantom, I mean, this was my introduction to that character.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm putting that above Fantastic Four, and I'm putting it above Moonwalker. So it's right under
Yeah.
Batman Returns. Where does it fall for you?
So I have it. Oh, hold on. Oh, dang it. There we go. Okay, now I'm seeing my list. Um, I have it at number 23, so over Masters of the Universe, Powerpuff Girls, Superman Doomsday Spawn, Ultimate Avengers, FF, Origins, and Jumper.
So you have it quite a bit lower than I do.
What? Do I?
Oh no, you don't. I've got it
I think I have
actually
it higher.
one above you.
Oh, okay. Well, never
You
mind then.
you put it at or yeah, you put it at 23, and I put it at 22.
Oh, okay. Oh, see, I'm looking at your list, and it's still like on Discord, and it's still or Discord on Letterboxd, and it still doesn't have Dark Knight Returns and Doctor Strange 2, so it was also throwing me off on the number.
Oh, sorry, you couldn't hear it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I if you refresh it now, you'll see it. I just saved it.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh,
But
okay, yeah, so you do have a one over me.
but yeah, on the stream, I instead of showing the regular page, I was showing my back end, and I didn't think to save it, so that's why.
Oh no, it's all good. All good.
So there's our ratings, there's our rankings, and I think all that's left to do now, besides say all the Patreon names at the end, is to reveal our movie for next time. And Austin, would you explain to everyone the convoluted way that we came up with this?
Oh, so if you follow the channel, you probably noticed that in the community chat or community section, whatever, Cap asked for suggestions, and we maybe called it a little too early because like 15 other suggestions came in after we did it,
And some stuff both of us liked a little better.
but we also waited like 4 hours, so that's all on you guys. uh, but we each picked two off of that, and then did a Patreon poll, and the movies were Iron Man, Gotham by Gaslight, Disney's Hercules, and what was the fourth one again?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, Hancock,
Hancock. That's right. Uh,
which I picked for no reason other than I thought it might be amusing to watch with you.
yeah, and I haven't seen that since it came out.
And we got to do it at some point. And I honestly was not really in the mood to do another big one after we just did Doctor Strange not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I went
What's
with more like off the beaten path things.
What's funny because I was like, I don't know what I want to pick here. I guess I'll just pick Iron Man, but like, I don't really feel like watching that. And then I watched Iron Man 3 like an hour after I said that, and I was like, oh, now I'm in an Iron Man mood.
I wish that got picked. Well, and I thought it would.
We both did.
I guess it makes sense that Hercules got picked just because that's such a like oddball thing for this
Yes,
show.
that's what we're doing. We're doing Disney's Hercules. But yeah,
Which Austin swears counts as a superhero movie, and I haven't
it
seen it in so
totally does.
long that
Yeah.
I have like no argument with that. I'm gonna assume he's right about it. But whatever, we're gonna review it as a superhero movie.
No, because they just go, oh, like what's a name we can use? Okay, that here's our Superman movie, and it's just Superman and Rocky like combined into one story, and more Superman with elements of Rocky than just straight up Rocky.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. That's not a Disney movie I go back to a lot. I have a cutoff point in the '90s with those where I just kind of stopped going back to them.
Well, that's my favorite Disney musical. I'm very excited to
And you're
talk about
not
that.
alone. I know a lot of people that have that.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people like quite a bit younger than me that have that.
And James Woods is really good as the villain. I'm very excited
Yeah.
to talk about that.
So yeah, that's what we're doing next time. It was going to happen eventually.
That'll also be a very easy one to prepare for, I think. But that's just because I know it so well. I don't
Yeah,
know if it'll be harder for
and
you.
I don't. But and also because those Disney movies have so much background material, I'll probably try to do a little bit of research with that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I know some of it,
I'll see if
not a
there's a
ton.
director's commentary for that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Do those Disney movies typically have
I
commentaries?
know
I
the
didn't
Pixar
look.
movies do a lot of them, but I'm not sure if regular, animated Disney movies do.
Oh, okay.
Once again, everybody, we appreciate you watching. Thanks a ton. We'll see you again next week. And again, if you want to become a Patreon producer, it's the $10 tier. Tomorrow night, if I'm, this is the plan right now anyway. We're gonna be doing a Patreon hangout, and we try to do these as close to once a month as we can. So that's a perk that you get for being there. You also get to help us pick movies for the show. And one of the things we do is, of course, I read your name at the end of every Superhero Rewind stream. And this is one of those. So thanks to all of our patrons, but especially Breezy Hemi, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello. I actually had to do this last night, so we'll see if anything's changed from yesterday to today. I don't think it has. Gooster123, Joe Turner, Jojira, we're in the J's now. John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, Abic Stark, Adam March, Damon, Bagay, Hot Soup. I'm gonna cry if Hot Soup ever leaves.
Because you can't say
'Cause
soup.
I don't get to say that anymore. It's a really great place to like stall the whole thing out. Invisipig, John Sandoval, good old John, Kareem Roberts, Kate Blaze, Matt Bat 68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez. We're in the M's now. This guy, the Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, and Wendell Jones. It's weird because they're not actually alphabetized,
Hmm.
but when
Oh,
they
okay.
bunch up like that, it makes me laugh. Or maybe they are within the tier. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I just assumed they all were. Because it always ends with Wendell.
You should probably just assume that I'm dumb and I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I assume you went to school. You know things about letters and what order they come in. Like I assume you're right.
Wow, that is naive. You went to school. You must be intelligent.
Well, you don't have to be intelligent to know which letter comes next.
I like that the bar is so high.
Yeah.
Well, we finished the movie. We just read all the names, and now somehow we have a significantly larger amount of people watching the stream than we had 20
Well,
minutes ago.
people just showed up for this intelligence talk to find out that you don't necessarily have to be a Harvard grad to know that a cow goes moo.
People showed up to hear me go hot soup.
Soup.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Goes.
See ya, everybody. The
Bye.
day phantom for today.
Bye, folks. Everybody go out and slam evil.